The 2015 movie Fantastic Four, often stylized as Fant 4 Stick, was released on August 7, 2015. It was intended to be a complete reboot of the franchise, starting fresh with a new cast and a new story. The hope was to create a modern, more serious take on Marvel's first family of superheroes. This wasn't the first time these characters had been on the big screen. There were two other movies in the mid-2000s. But this new version promised something different. It was supposed to be darker, more grounded in science fiction, and less like a typical comic book movie. The studio, 20th Century Fox, wanted to build a new universe around these characters, much like what Marvel Studios was doing with the Avengers. However, from the very beginning, there was a lot of negative buzz surrounding this movie. Many fans of the comics and the original films just weren't excited about it. The casting choices were controversial for some, and the initial trailers looked very dark and gloomy. This was a huge departure from the fun, family-friendly tone that people associated with the Fantastic Four. It felt like the movie was trying to be something it wasn't, chasing the trend of dark and gritty reboots like The Dark Knight, instead of embracing what made the source material special. It seemed like a project that was made more to keep the movie rights at the studio than to actually tell a compelling story that audiences wanted to see. The feeling that this movie was unwanted only grew as more information came out. There were reports of a troubled production, with major disagreements between the director, Josh Trank, and the studio. This kind of behind-the-scenes drama is never a good sign, and it often shows in the final product. People who were already skeptical now had even more reason to believe that this movie was going to be a disaster. The marketing campaign didn't help either. It failed to generate any real excitement, and the trailers just made the movie look generic and depressing. Instead of building anticipation, it felt like the studio was just going through the motions, preparing for a release that nobody was truly looking forward to. When the movie finally came out, the reception was overwhelmingly negative. Critics hated it, audiences hated it. It has one of the lowest scores for any superhero movie on review sites like Rotten Tomatoes. The box office numbers were just as bad, with the film failing to make back its production budget. It was a certified flop. All the fears and all the skepticism turned out to be completely justified. The movie that nobody seemed to want ended up being a movie that nobody went to see. It was a clear message from the public that this was not the Fantastic Four they knew or cared about, and the attempt to force a dark, serious version onto them had failed spectacularly. The story of the 2015 Fantastic Four follows a young and brilliant scientist named Reed Richards. Since he was a kid, he's been working on a teleportation device with his friend Ben Grimm. As a young adult, he gets recruited into a prestigious science program led by Dr. Franklin Storm. There he works with Dr. Storm's children, Sue and Johnny Storm, and another troubled genius named Victor Von Doom. Together they finally complete the machine, which they discover is actually a gateway to another dimension, a place they call Planet Zero. It's a very different take on their origin, grounding it more in interdimensional travel rather than cosmic rays in space, which was the classic story. After the project is taken over by the government, Reed, Johnny, and Victor decide to make an unauthorized trip to Planet Zero. Ben Grimm gets roped into coming along with them. Of course, things go horribly wrong. The dimension is unstable and hostile. Victor is seemingly lost and consumed by a strange energy, while Reed, Johnny, and Ben are hit by an energy wave as they try to escape. Sue, who was back at the lab helping them return, is also caught in the blast. This event gives them all incredible and initially horrifying powers. Reed can stretch his body, Sue can become invisible and create force fields, Johnny can engulf himself in flames, and Ben is transformed into a massive rock monster. The movie then jumps forward 1 year. The four are being held in a secret government facility, treated more like lab rats than heroes. Reed has escaped and is on the run, trying to find a cure for their conditions. Ben is being used as a military weapon, while Sue and Johnny are trying to master their abilities under government supervision. This part of the movie is incredibly bleak. There's no sense of wonder or excitement about their new powers. Instead, it's all about pain, isolation, and being exploited by the government. The characters are separated and miserable, which completely misses the point of them being a family of heroes who support each other through this incredible change. Eventually, a team is sent back to Planet Zero, where they find Victor Von Doom. He has been transformed as well, merged with his suit and given immense telekinetic powers. Now calling himself Dr. Doom, he has become a nihilistic villain who wants to use the power of Planet Zero to destroy the Earth. This forces the four to finally reunite and use their powers together to stop him. The final battle is short, confusing, and takes place entirely in the other dimension. After they defeat Doom, the government gives them their own base of operations, and they decide to call themselves the Fantastic Four. The ending feels rushed and unearned, like they just tacked it on at the last minute. When you compare the 2015 movie to the earlier films from 2005 and 2007, the biggest difference is the tone. The older movies, starring Iowan Grufford, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, and Michael Chiklis, were bright, colorful, and fun. They felt like a comic book come to life. The characters joked around, they had a family dynamic, and they seemed to enjoy being superheroes for the most part. The 2005 film understood that the Fantastic Four is about family, adventure, and optimism. It wasn't a perfect movie, but it captured the spirit of the comics. It had a sense of humor, and didn't take itself too seriously, which is exactly what a lot of fans wanted. The 2015 Reboot, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. It's dark, joyless, and depressing. The color palette is all grays and muted blues, making everything look cold and sterile. The characters barely smile. They spend most of the movie being miserable about their powers. The body horror aspect is cranked up to 10, focusing on how painful and grotesque their transformations are. While that could be an interesting angle, it completely overshadows any sense of adventure or wonder. The earlier films showed the struggle, especially with Ben Grimm, but it was balanced with moments of triumph and camaraderie. The 2015 version offers no such balance. It's just bleak from start to finish. Another major step down is the characterization. In the older films, the relationships felt more developed. You could believe that Reed and Sue had a history, that Johnny was an arrogant but lovable hothead, and that Ben was Reed's loyal, long-suffering best friend. Their interactions drove the story. In the 2015 movie, the characters feel like strangers. They are thrown together by circumstance but never form a believable bond. Reed is just awkward, Sue is distant, Johnny is bland, and Ben is mostly just angry. There's no chemistry between them. The heart of the Fantastic Four is their family dynamic, and without that, the whole concept falls apart. The 2015 film fails to build that foundation. Even the villain is a huge downgrade. Julian McMahon's Dr. Doom in the 2005 and 2007 films was a classic, power-hungry corporate rival. He was arrogant and over the top, which fit the movie's campy tone. He looked the part, with his metal mask and green cloak. The 2015 Dr. Doom is a disaster. He starts as a moody blogger and computer programmer, then gets turned into a shiny mannequin-like creature covered in what looks like trash bags. His motivations are confusing, and his final attack on Earth comes out of nowhere. He's one of the most iconic villains in comic book history, and the movie turned him into a generic, forgettable CGI monster with about 10 minutes of screen time. One of the most specific and glaring problems with the 2015 movie is its pacing and structure. The film spends over an hour on the origin story. We watch the characters as kids, then as young adults building the machine, and then the accident happens. After that, there's a time jump, and they are all separated and miserable. The team doesn't actually come together and fight as a unit until the last 15 minutes of the movie. A film called Fantastic Four should probably feature the Fantastic Four working together for more than a fraction of its runtime. It feels like a very long and boring prologue for a movie that never actually starts. The visual effects and design choices are also a major step back. Ben Grimm, The Thing, is a prime example. In the 2005 film, actor Michael Chiklis wore an incredible practical suit. It looked tangible and real. You could feel the weight and texture of it. In the 2015 version, The Thing is a fully CGI creation that looks rubbery and unconvincing. He also, for some reason, doesn't wear any pants, which was just a bizarre and distracting choice. The design of Planet Zero is equally uninspired. It's just a generic landscape of green rocks and green energy clouds. There's nothing fantastic or imaginative about it. It looks like a cheap video game level from the early 2000s. The third act of the film is notoriously bad and feels completely disconnected from everything that came before it. After a year of being separated, the team is suddenly forced to work together to fight Dr. Doom, who has just reappeared. The final battle is rushed, poorly choreographed, and lacks any emotional weight. You can almost feel the studio interference, as if they cut out huge chunks of the story and then hastily threw together an ending. There are noticeable continuity errors like Kate Mara's hair changing length from shot to shot, which points to extensive and sloppy reshoots. It's a messy and unsatisfying conclusion to an already weak film. In conclusion, the 2015 Fantastic Four failed because it fundamentally misunderstood the source material. It traded fun, family, and adventure for a dark and gritty tone that didn't fit the characters. It was a movie nobody asked for, plagued by a troubled production that resulted in a disjointed and boring final product. From the weak character development and lack of chemistry to the poor visual effects and a disastrous third act, the film failed on almost every level. It stands as a powerful example of how not to reboot a franchise. Instead of being the start of a new and exciting series, it became a cautionary tale in Hollywood.